I'm 50 years old, and for almost 20 years, I believed I had the kind of family people dream about. Every holiday, every birthday, every Thanksgiving dinner, I was the one bringing everyone together. If someone needed money, they called me. If someone needed a babysitter, they called me. If someone needed a place to stay, they came to my house. I thought that meant I was loved. I was wrong. One ordinary Tuesday morning, my phone buzzed with a message that wasn't meant for me. It looked harmless, just a screenshot from what seemed like another family conversation. But when I looked closer, I saw something that made my heart stop. There was a family group chat, one that included every single person I loved. My mother, my brother, my sister, my children, even my nieces and nephews. Everyone, except me. At first, I told myself it had to be a mistake. Then I started reading the messages. Every smile they gave me at dinner, every hug, every "we love you," suddenly meant something completely different. What hurt the most wasn't that they talked about me. It was realizing they had been doing it for years, while I kept believing I was the heart of the family. If you're watching this, don't judge them yet. Because if I had seen only one message, I probably would have forgiven them. But I didn't find one message. I found years of secrets. And by the time I reached the last one, I wasn't crying because my family had betrayed me. I was crying because I finally understood. I had never really known them at all. My name is Vanessa Brooks. I'm 50 years old. And if you met me today, you'd probably think I'm just another woman sitting in a quiet living room with a cup of coffee, trying to make peace with life. But there was a time when my house was never quiet. Every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, every birthday, every Sunday dinner, my home was the place where my family gathered. People used to call me the glue that held everyone together. I believed them. Maybe that's why what happened hurts so much. You see, I wasn't born into a perfect family. None of us were. But I spent most of my adult life trying to create one. After my divorce at 38, I raised my two children mostly by myself. Their father paid child support when he remembered. The rest, that was on me. I worked 2 jobs. I missed vacations. I skipped buying things I wanted so my children could have the things they needed. When my son wanted to play baseball, I found the money. When my daughter dreamed of going to summer camp, I worked overtime until I could afford it. I never complained, because that's what mothers do. At least, that's what I believed. As the years passed, my children grew into adults. My son, Marcus, became an accountant. My daughter, Jasmine, became a nurse. Watching them succeed made every sacrifice feel worth it. Then there was my mother. She was getting older. Her knees hurt. Her eyesight wasn't what it used to be. So every Saturday morning, before I did anything for myself, I'd drive 45 minutes to her house. I'd buy groceries, clean the kitchen, take her to doctor's appointments. Sometimes we'd sit on her porch drinking sweet tea, talking about life the way we used to when I was a little girl. Those were my favorite days. Or at least, I thought they were. My younger sister, Denise, well, she always joked that I acted like the family's second mother. Everyone laughed. If you had asked me back then what success looked like, I wouldn't have pointed to money, or a bigger house, or a luxury car. I would have pointed to my dining room table. Every holiday, that table was full. My mother sat at one end. My brother loved telling the same old jokes. My sister Denise always brought her famous pecan pie. Marcus and Jasmine laughed with their cousins until I had to remind them they weren't kids anymore. The room was loud, messy, beautiful. At least, that's how I remember it. Every Thanksgiving started the same way. I woke up before sunrise. Turkey in the oven, sweet potato casserole, cornbread stuffing, mac and cheese, pumpkin pie cooling on the counter. By the time everyone arrived, I'd already spent 8 or 9 hours in the kitchen. But when I heard someone say, "Vanessa, your cooking is the reason we all come here," every sore muscle felt worth it. I smiled. I believed I was building memories that would last forever. Looking back, I wonder if they were only building expectations. Because after dinner was over, nobody stayed to help clean. My son would say, "Mom, I have an early meeting tomorrow." My daughter would hug me and whisper, I'll help next time. My brother somehow disappeared before the dishes even reached the sink. And Denise. She'd laugh, grab her purse, kiss me on the cheek and say, "You're amazing, sis. I don't know how you do it." Then she'd leave. Every single time. I washed the dishes alone. I told myself it didn't matter. Love wasn't supposed to keep score, right? But little things slowly began happening. Things I explained away because I didn't want to believe anything was wrong. Family barbecues I'd hear about after they happened. Photos posted online from weekend trips I didn't know existed. Birthday dinners where someone would casually say, "Oh, I thought you already knew." Sometimes conversations stopped the SEC. A week later, I was standing in my laundry room, folding towels while an old jazz playlist hummed softly through the speaker in my kitchen. For the first time in days, I wasn't thinking about the lake trip. I had convinced myself to let it go. Maybe I really had overreacted. Maybe there was an explanation I hadn't heard yet. Then, my phone vibrated. I glanced at the screen without thinking. It was a text from my niece, Chloe. She was 23. Sweet. Quiet. The kind of young woman who always hugged me a little longer than everyone else. The message only said, "Oops." Before I could reply, a photo appeared beneath it. At first, I smiled. I assumed she'd sent me a family picture by accident. But when I tapped the image, my smile disappeared. It was a screenshot. At the top of the screen was the name of a group chat. Family only. I frowned. Family only? That didn't make any sense. My fingers froze above the screen. I looked closer. One by one, I read the names. My mother. My brother, Calvin. My sister, Denise. Marcus. Jasmine. My nieces. My nephews. Even my brother-in-law, who had only married into our family a few years earlier. Everyone was there. Everyone. Except me. For a moment, I honestly believed it had to be another family. Another group. Another Vanessa. Anything except the truth my heart was already beginning to understand. I zoomed in again. No. These were my people. My family. The same people who sat around my dining room table every Thanksgiving. The same people who told me they loved me. The same people who called me whenever they needed help. Yet, somehow, they had built a place where everyone belonged, except me. I felt something I had never felt before. Not anger. Not even sadness. Confusion. A deep, painful confusion. I whispered to myself, why wasn't I there? Before I could think any further, another message popped onto my screen. It was from Chloe. "Aunt Vanessa, I'm so sorry." A second later, the message disappeared. She had unsent it. Then another one appeared. "Please pretend you never saw that." A lump formed in my throat. Pretend? How was I supposed to pretend I hadn't just discovered my own family had a secret place where I didn't exist? I stared at my phone for several minutes. My hands were trembling so badly that I almost dropped it. I wanted to call someone. My son. My daughter. My mother. Anyone. But one question kept stopping me. If this was all just a misunderstanding, why was everyone trying so hard to hide it? Then something caught my eye. The screenshot wasn't cropped all the way. At the very bottom, part of one message was still visible. Just one sentence. Only a few words. But they were enough to make my stomach turn. "Don't tell Vanessa." The rest of the sentence was cut off. I couldn't see what came next. Who wrote it? What weren't they supposed to tell me? And why did it sound like this wasn't the first secret they'd kept? I kept staring at those 3 words, "Don't tell Vanessa," over and over again, because deep down, I knew whatever came after those words was about to change my life forever. I wish I could tell you that I deleted the screenshot, that I respected Chloe's request, that I walked away before I learned anything else. But I didn't. I couldn't. For the rest of the afternoon, I kept staring at those words. Don't tell Vanessa? Who wrote them? What were they hiding? And why did it feel like everyone knew something, except me? Around 7 that evening, my phone rang. It was Chloe. I answered immediately. She didn't even say hello. She whispered, "Aunt Vanessa, I'm so sorry. I wasn't supposed to send that to you. I took a deep breath. Chloe, what is that group? Silence. I could hear her crying. Finally, she said, please don't ask me that. Chloe, I said gently. Am I the only one who's not in it? Another long silence. Then, yes. That one word broke something inside me. I wasn't imagining it. I wasn't overthinking. I wasn't being sensitive. I had been excluded. On purpose. I closed my eyes. How long has that group existed? She hesitated, then answered so quietly I almost didn't hear her. Almost for years. For years. For 4 years my family had shared birthdays, vacations, holiday plans, and conversations. Without me. Yet every Thanksgiving, they sat at my table smiling like nothing was wrong. I wasn't sure what hurt more, the secret, or how effortlessly they had lived with it. Then Chloe said something I'll never forget. Aunt Vanessa, there are thousands of messages. Thousands. Not dozens. Not hundreds. Thousands. My heart started racing. I asked the question I was almost afraid to hear. Do they talk about me? She didn't answer. She didn't have to. Her silence answered everything. A few seconds later, my phone buzzed again. This time, another screenshot arrived.
No explanation.
No message. Just another screenshot. My hands shook as I opened it. At the top, someone had written, "Who's hosting Thanksgiving this year?" My brother replied, "Vanessa probably will." A laughing emoji appeared beneath it. Then Denise wrote, "Of course she will. She always does." Another laugh. Then someone added, "Good. That saves the rest of us the trouble." More laughing emojis. I kept reading. Just don't tell her we're all meeting at Mom's next weekend to plan everything. She'll turn it into one of her speeches about family. Exactly, let's keep it simple this year. I stared at the screen. That weekend, the weekend they were talking about, I remembered calling my mother. She had told me she was tired and staying home. She lied. Every single one of them had lied. Not because they had to, but because it was easier than telling me the truth. Tears blurred my vision. Not because they planned Thanksgiving without me, but because I suddenly realized every excuse I'd defended, every benefit of the doubt I'd given them, every time I'd convinced myself I was overreacting, had been protecting people who weren't protecting me. Then another notification appeared. A third screenshot. This one was older. Much older. The date made my heart skip. It was from nearly 3 years earlier. Before my 50th birthday. Before the lake trip. Before I ever suspected anything. I touched the screen, ready to read it. And that's when I saw a name. A name I never expected to see at the center of the conversation.
Denise.
Must have stared at her name for a full minute. My younger sister. The little girl I used to walk to school every morning. The one I defended when kids made fun of her braces. The one who lived with me for almost a year after her divorce because she had nowhere else to go. I remembered sleeping on my own couch so she could have my bedroom. I remembered paying her utility bills without telling anyone. I remembered telling my children, family takes care of family. And now, her name was sitting at the top of a conversation I was never supposed to see. I took a deep breath and began reading. Denise had written, "Before anyone says anything, don't invite Vanessa this weekend." Someone replied, "Why not?" For 1 second, I hoped she would defend me. Instead, she answered, "Because she'll make herself the center of attention like she always does." My chest tightened. The messages continued. She'll start talking about family traditions again. And then she'll volunteer to host everything. Honestly, it's exhausting. Another family member reacted with a laughing emoji. Then another. Nobody disagreed. Nobody said, "That's not true." Nobody defended me. I kept scrolling. Denise wrote again. "Let's just tell her mom isn't feeling well." My brother answered, "Good idea." Then my mother herself replied, "I hate lying to her." I stopped breathing. Maybe, just maybe, she was going to tell everyone the truth. Then the next message appeared. "But I guess it's easier this way." My eyes filled with tears. My own mother knew. She knew they were lying to me, and she agreed to do it anyway. I set my phone down on the kitchen counter. Everything around me suddenly felt quiet. The washing machine had stopped. The coffee maker had gone silent. Even the music I'd been listening to earlier had ended. The only sound left was my own heartbeat. I picked up the phone again. Maybe Denise was just having a bad day. Maybe this was one conversation. Maybe I was judging too quickly. Then I looked at the date. 3 years ago. I opened another screenshot. Different month.
Different holiday.
Same conversation. Same jokes. Same lies. The pattern wasn't beginning. It had already existed for years. Then I found a message that hurt even more than Denise's. It wasn't written by my sister. It wasn't written by my mother. It was written by someone I had spent my entire life protecting. And the moment I read those words, I felt like my heart had stopped. I closed my eyes. For a moment, I couldn't bring myself to read another word. I wanted to believe there had been some mistake. Maybe Chloe had sent the wrong screenshots. Maybe I was misunderstanding the conversations.
Maybe.
But deep inside, I already knew. With trembling hands, I opened the next screenshot. The message was written by my daughter, Jasmine. I felt my heart sink. I smiled without realizing it. Not because I was happy, but because I still believed my little girl would defend me. She always had, or so I thought. I started reading. Someone had asked, should we invite Mom to the beach house next month? Before anyone else replied, Jasmine answered, honestly, I think everyone has more fun when Mom isn't there. I read the sentence again, and then again. My eyes refused to believe what they were seeing. This was the little girl whose nightmares I used to comfort. The little girl whose hair I braided before school. The little girl I stayed awake with whenever she had a fever. I whispered, no, not you. The messages continued. Denise replied, exactly. She always wants everything to feel like some Hallmark movie. Jasmine reacted with a laughing emoji. Then she added, she means well, but she doesn't realize how overwhelming she can be. Overwhelming. That word echoed inside my head. Had loving my family become something they had to tolerate? I kept reading. One of my cousins wrote, just tell Aunt Vanessa we're keeping it small. Jasmine answered, she'll believe it. She always does. I covered my mouth, not because I wanted to scream, because I suddenly felt too weak to breathe. My daughter knew I trusted them. She knew, and she used that trust against me. Tears rolled down my face. Not loud tears, just silent ones. The kind that fall when your heart is breaking too quietly for anyone else to hear. I looked around my empty house. Every picture on the wall held a memory. Christmas mornings, graduation day, family vacations, birthdays. I wondered, had those smiles been real? Or had I been the only one who believed they were? Just then, another screenshot arrived from Chloe. This one contained only one message.
No jokes. No emojis. No laughter.
Just a single sentence. It had been written by my son, Marcus. I froze. Because if Jasmine's words had broken my heart, somehow, I knew Marcus's words were about to shatter what was left of it. Stared at the screen, unable to move. Marcus had always been my quiet one. The child who rarely argued. The one who hugged me every Mother's Day and whispered, love you, Mom. If there was one person I believed would never betray me, it was him. I wiped my tears and opened the screenshot. The message began with Denise. Should someone call Vanessa? Or are we just going to let her figure it out on her own? A few people reacted with thumbs up emojis. Then, Marcus replied, don't call her. My heart skipped a beat. His next message appeared. If we tell Mom everything, she'll ask 100 questions. It's easier if she thinks everyone's just busy.
Busy.
That was the word they always used. Busy for Christmas. Busy for birthdays. Busy for Sunday dinner. Busy whenever it came to me. I kept reading. One cousin wrote, I actually feel bad for Aunt Vanessa. For one brief second, hope returned. Maybe someone finally understood. Then Marcus answered, don't. Mom creates her own disappointment. Nobody asked her to do all those things for us. I felt like the air had been knocked out of my lungs. Nobody asked her. Those words echoed through my mind. Maybe he was right. Nobody had forced me to cook Thanksgiving dinner. Nobody had forced me to stay up all night sewing Halloween costumes. Nobody had forced me to drive 4 hours to help family members move. I had done those things because I loved them. But somehow, the love I freely gave had become something they believed they deserved. Not something they appreciated. Something they expected. I continued reading. Denise replied,
Exactly.
"She likes playing the hero." Marcus reacted with a thumbs up. A thumbs up. Not a defense. Not a disagreement. Just agreement. I laid my phone on the table and buried my face in my hands. For the first time in my life, I questioned every memory I had. Every birthday cake. Every Christmas morning. Every family photo hanging on my wall. Had I been loved? Or had I simply been useful? Just then, my phone buzzed again.
It wasn't Chloe this time.
It was my mother. She was calling. I stared at her name flashing across the screen. For years, I would have answered before the second ring. But this time, I couldn't, because after everything I'd just read, I no longer knew whether I was about to hear my mother's voice or another lie. My mother's name stayed on my screen. Mom calling. The phone rang once.
Twice. 3 times.
I couldn't answer. Not after everything I'd just read. Not when I no longer knew if the woman who had taught me to always tell the truth had been lying to me for years. The ringing stopped. A second later, a voicemail notification appeared. I wasn't ready to hear her voice, so I set my phone face down on the table. For the next hour, I walked around my house without knowing what I was doing. I picked up a picture frame. It was from Christmas 6 years earlier. Marcus had his arm around me. Jasmine was smiling beside us. Mom stood in the middle. Denise leaned against my shoulder. We looked like the happiest family in America. I traced my finger across the glass. Then I whispered, "Were any of these smiles real?" My phone vibrated again. This time, it wasn't a call. It was another message from Chloe. My stomach tightened before I even opened it. She wrote, "Aunt Vanessa, there's something you still don't know." I stared at those words. Then another message appeared. The group chat wasn't Denise's idea. I stopped breathing.
What?
For days, I had convinced myself Denise had created the group, that she was the reason everyone turned against me. But Chloe was telling me, it started somewhere else. I typed back immediately. Then whose idea was it? The little typing bubbles appeared, then disappeared, appeared again. She was struggling. Finally, her reply came. "I can't tell you over text." Before I could answer, she sent one more message. "There's a reason everyone listened to Denise." I frowned. That sentence didn't make sense. Denise had always been the youngest. She wasn't the loudest. She wasn't the richest. She wasn't the one people usually followed. So, why had everyone listened to her? Unless someone else had given her permission. A cold feeling ran through my body. There was only one person in this family whose opinion everyone respected more than anyone else's. One person whose approval could influence every decision. I slowly picked up my phone again. My thumb hovered over the voicemail my mother had left.
For the first time in my life,
I was afraid to hear my own mother's voice, because something inside me kept whispering, "If you press play, nothing will ever be the same again." For nearly 10 minutes, I stared at the voicemail. My thumb hovered over the play button, then pulled away, hovered again, then pulled away. Finally, I closed my eyes and pressed play. My mother's voice filled the room. It sounded tired, older than I remembered. "Vanessa, sweetheart, call me when you can. We need to talk."
She paused.
I heard her take a shaky breath. "I know you're probably upset about something." Something? She didn't even know what I had seen. Or maybe
she did.
Then she continued, "Please don't listen to anyone before you hear my side." My heart began pounding. My side? What side? There shouldn't have been sides in a family. There should have been truth. The voicemail ended.
No explanation. No apology.
Just another mystery. I sat there in complete silence. Then Chloe texted again. "Can you meet me tomorrow?" I replied immediately. "Where?" She answered. The little coffee shop on Maple Street.
10 o'clock.
That cafe. It was where I used to take Chloe after school when she was little. We hadn't been there in years. The next morning, I arrived 20 minutes early. I wasn't thinking about coffee. I was thinking about answers. When Chloe walked in, she looked nervous. She hugged me tighter than usual. Then she sat down across from me, without saying a word. I reached across the table and held her hand. Sweetheart, whatever it is, just tell me the truth. She looked down at her coffee. Tears filled her eyes. Aunt Vanessa, everyone thinks you're only upset because of the group chat. I frowned. Isn't that what this is about? She slowly shook her head.
No.
Then she looked straight into my eyes. The group chat was never the real secret. Every hair on my arm stood up. Then what is? Chloe swallowed hard. For years, they didn't just leave you out of conversations. She stopped. Her voice cracked. They made decisions about your life. Without ever letting you know. I felt my chest tighten. What decisions? She reached into her purse, pulled out a folded piece of paper, and slid it across the table. I found this while helping Grandma clean out an old drawer. My hands trembled as I unfolded it. At the top of the page, I recognized the handwriting immediately. It belonged to my mother, but it wasn't a letter. It was a list. And beside my name was something written that made my entire world stop. Don't tell Vanessa, not yet. Couldn't take my eyes off the paper. At the very top, in my mother's handwriting, were the words, "Don't tell Vanessa, not yet." My fingers trembled. I looked at Chloe. What is this? She lowered her eyes. I don't know everything, but I know Grandma kept that list hidden. I swallowed hard. Then I looked back at the page. It wasn't just my name. Every member of my family was listed. Marcus, Jasmine,
Denise,
Calvin, even a few cousins. Next to each name, there were short notes. Some had check marks. Some had dates. Then I reached my own name. My heart nearly stopped. Beside it, my mother had written, "Vanessa asks too many questions." Underneath, "Tell her only what she needs to know." I felt the room begin to spin. I wasn't reading cruel words from strangers. I was reading instructions, written by my own mother. I looked up at Chloe. When did you find this? She quietly answered, about 3 weeks ago. You've had this for 3 weeks? She nodded. I wanted to tell you, but I was scared. Scared of who? She hesitated, then whispered, everyone. The cafe suddenly felt too small, too quiet. I folded the paper carefully and placed it back on the table. There has to be more. Chloe slowly nodded. There is. She reached into her purse again. This time, she pulled out an old USB flash drive. I almost didn't bring this. I stared at it. What's on it? My dad made copies years ago. Her father, my brother Calvin. He told me to destroy it if anything ever happened to him. My stomach tightened. Destroy what? She slid the flash drive across the table. I watched some of it.
She paused.
And I couldn't stop crying. I picked it up with shaking hands. It isn't just messages, Aunt Vanessa. It's recordings. Recordings? She nodded. Family meetings. I felt every muscle in my body freeze. Family meetings? The words echoed inside my head. Meetings. Not conversations. Not misunderstandings. Meetings. How many had there been? How many decisions had been made while I was cooking holiday dinners, buying birthday presents, or driving Mom to doctor's appointments? I looked at Chloe. Were they talking about me? A tear rolled down her cheek. They talked about you, she whispered. At almost every meeting. I couldn't speak. For years, I thought I was holding my family together. Now I was discovering they had been gathering together to decide what I should and shouldn't know. I slowly slipped the flash drive into my purse. Then I looked out the cafe window. The first snowflakes of winter had begun to fall. Everything outside looked peaceful, beautiful, but inside me, nothing would ever be peaceful again. Because I knew the truth wasn't hiding inside that group chat. The truth was waiting inside that tiny flash drive. And somehow, I wasn't sure I was ready to hear it. I drove home with a flash drive sitting in my purse. The entire drive home, I kept glancing at the passenger seat. It was strange. Something so small could carry something powerful enough to destroy an entire family. When I walked into my house, the silence felt different. It no longer felt peaceful. It felt heavy. I placed my purse on the kitchen counter, made myself a cup of coffee, then sat in front of my laptop. For almost 20 minutes, I couldn't bring myself to touch the flash drive. Part of me wanted answers. Another part wanted to stay the woman I had been that morning, because once I knew the truth, there would be no going back. Finally, I took a deep breath and plugged it into my computer. Only one folder appeared. Its name was simple: Family Meetings. Inside, there were 12 audio recordings. Each one had a date. The oldest recording was almost 4 years old, the same year the secret group chat had been created. With trembling hands, I clicked the very first recording. Static filled the speakers. Then, voices. I recognized every single one. My brother, my sister, my mother, Marcus, Jasmine, even a few relatives. They were all there. Someone laughed. Someone poured coffee. It sounded like an ordinary family gathering. Then Denise's voice broke the silence. Before Vanessa gets here? I froze. Before Vanessa gets here? They were meeting.
Before inviting me.
Another voice laughed.
Good.
We can actually talk. The room erupted with quiet chuckles. Every laugh felt like another crack in my heart. Then my mother spoke.
Her voice was calm.
Gentle. The same voice that used to sing me to sleep when I was little. No one hates Vanessa. For one brief moment, I felt relieved. Then she continued. But everyone knows she asks too many questions. It's easier if we make decisions first and tell her later.
My heart sank. So, it wasn't just Denise.
It wasn't just Marcus. It wasn't even the group chat. This had become the family's way of treating me. Then, I heard something I never expected. My son spoke. Mom always says family should decide things together.
He paused.
Then quietly added, let's just make sure she never finds out these meetings exist. Silence filled the room. No one disagreed. No one said, that's wrong. Instead, someone simply changed the subject, as if keeping secrets from me had become completely normal. I stopped the recording. I couldn't breathe. I walked outside onto my back porch. Snow was falling softly. The world looked beautiful. But inside me, everything was falling apart. I realized something that hurt more than every message, more than every lie, more than every meeting. This wasn't one bad decision. This wasn't one misunderstanding. This was a habit.
A tradition.
For years, they had been protecting each other from me. Not because I was cruel, not because I was dangerous, but because telling me the truth had become inconvenient. As I stood there trying to hold myself together, my phone vibrated. It was a text from Denise. The first message she'd sent me in almost 3 weeks. It only contained one sentence. Can we meet tomorrow? There's something I've never told you. I stared at those words for a long time, because after everything I'd just heard, I wasn't sure there was anything left that could still surprise me. The next morning, I almost canceled. After everything I had discovered, the messages, the recordings, the meetings, I didn't think there was anything Denise could say that would matter anymore. But something inside me needed to hear her. Not because I owed her that chance, because I owed myself the truth. We agreed to meet at a quiet park where we used to play as children. It was cold. The trees were bare. The same wooden bench was still there. Only now, 2 sisters sat on it like strangers. For almost a minute, neither of us spoke. Then Denise finally broke the silence. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I looked at her. I don't think you can. She nodded. I know. She wiped away a tear. I've been jealous of you my whole life. I frowned. Jealous of me? She laughed bitterly. You were the daughter everyone admired. The dependable one. The responsible one. The one Mom trusted. I spent years feeling invisible standing next to you. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I never wanted you to feel that way. I know. She looked down at the ground. But jealousy doesn't care what's true. It only cares about what it believes. She took a deep breath. The group chat started as a joke. My idea. I just wanted one place where people would stop comparing me to you. But every time someone laughed, it became easier to keep going. Then the lies became normal. The lies turned into secrets. And the secrets turned into our new family. Tears rolled down her face. I kept telling myself I'd stop. But every year it got worse. I sat there, completely silent. Then I asked the question that had lived inside my heart ever since I saw that first screenshot. Why didn't anyone stop you? Denise closed her eyes. Because it was easier. No one wanted confrontation. No one wanted to hurt your feelings. So, they hurt them anyway. They just made sure you didn't find out. Those words hit me harder than anything else. Not because my sister hated me, but because everyone else chose comfort instead of honesty. Denise reached into her purse. She handed me a family photograph. It was from Thanksgiving 2 years earlier. Everyone was smiling, including me. She pointed to the picture. Do you know what happened 5 minutes before this photo? I slowly shook my head. We had just finished another family meeting. About you. I closed my eyes. That photograph had sat on my living room wall for years. Every time I walked past it, I remembered love.
Now.
I remembered betrayal. Denise stood up. I'm so sorry, Vanessa. I don't expect another chance. She turned and slowly walked away. I watched her disappear down the path. I never called her back. Not because I hated her, because healing sometimes requires distance. Over the next year, I stopped chasing people who only remembered me when they needed me. Some family members apologized. Some never did. Marcus and Jasmine came to my house one evening.
They cried.
They admitted they had allowed themselves to become comfortable with silence instead of choosing honesty. Our relationship slowly began to heal. Not because trust magically returned, but because they finally accepted responsibility for breaking it. As for my mother, she hugged me tighter than she ever had before. She whispered, I spent too many years trying to keep everyone happy, and I lost the daughter who loved me the most. That sentence stayed with me. Today, I'm 50 years old. My house is quieter than it used to be. My Thanksgiving table is smaller. But every person sitting around it is there because they choose to be, not because they need something from me. And for the first time in my life, I finally understand what family really means. It isn't built on blood. It isn't built on tradition. It isn't built on shared last names. It's built on honesty. Because once honesty disappears, a family can sit around the same table, smile for the same photograph, say I love you, and still become strangers.
Moral.
The deepest betrayal isn't discovering people talked about you behind your back. It's realizing they smiled to your face while building a life that never had a place for you.